All right, day 11, entitled Preferred. So you've heard it before. Comparison is the thief of joy. Well, Jesus, he wants you to be free to have joy. So when I was in college, my closest friend is a guy I'll call Stevie. And at the time that Stevie and I became really good friends, I was an agnostic verging on faith and conversion. And he was a philosopher atheist. So we made we made quite the pair. It was a strange pairing, but we had a great time together. And every Thursday night, we had this awesome routine. Mostly awesome. Every Thursday, we'd play pickup basketball. We'd go to his spot, eat a crazy amount of food, watch this awful reality TV show called The Jersey Shore, and then play a basketball video game until about 1 or 2 a.m. in the morning. And I loved everything about our Thursday night routine, except the silly 30 minutes we spent watching this reality TV show. And so one day, I asked Stevie, why do you love it so much? And he said, because whenever I start feeling bad about myself or whenever I start feeling bad about my life, I can just watch this show and know at least I'm not as bad as them. At least I'm better than them. And I mean, his answer is the modern version, that is, of the story Jesus talks about the publican and the Pharisee. You know the one where the Pharisee thanks God for not being like a thief, adulterer, or tax collector. And the publican, he just begs for God's mercy. He just sits in the back of church. He can't even look up. He just keeps his head down and begs for God's mercy. And Jesus says the infamous line, whoever exalts himself will be humbled, and whoever humbles himself will be exalted. Well, for Stevie, the story of Stevie is the exact same story as this one. Stevie felt a ton of gratitude in his heart through comparison to those that he obviously thought he was better than, which is exactly what the Pharisee was doing. The Pharisee was like, I derive my gratitude and my joy by comparing myself to someone obviously way worse than me. So when the popular trope tells you that comparison is the thief of joy, it's actually talking to you about comparison robbing you of joy in two ways. The first is the obvious one. If you lament the fact that people are preferred to you, if you focus on what you don't have as opposed to what you do have, it's going to breed a complaining, bitter, and miserable heart. The second one, which is the more subtle one, is if you, as Stevie did, measure your life by any standard other than the one presented by the life of Jesus, then you're actually robbing yourself of the joy of meeting the person you could be. Stevie, he wasn't motivated to grow. He wasn't motivated to pursue virtue because in comparison to the TV show, he was already good enough as he was. But the humble person knows they're not as good as they could be. There's more untapped potential. So preference goes two ways. When you try to have yourself be preferred to other people in comparison to them by putting other people down and raising yourself up, that's going to rob you of your joy. It's also going to rob you of your joy if you compare yourself to someone who is incomparable to, who is way above and beyond what you should be comparing yourself to. Both rob yourself of joy. Therese of Lisieux knew this. The story of the Pharisee and the publican was one of her favorites because it helped her stop comparing herself to God. It helped her to model the response of the publican, God have mercy on me, a sinner. Because for Therese, focusing on the perfection of God overwhelmed her. How could she ever live up to that? Be holy as I am holy was a real struggle for her. But she also couldn't and didn't want to compare herself to others, knowing that that was fruitless as well. So she took the highest road possible, which is the road of humility, the road described by C.S. Lewis when he said humility is not thinking less of yourself, it's thinking of yourself less. Therese removed comparison from her life. She didn't compare herself to her fellow sisters, and she didn't compare herself to the perfection of God because both robbed her of her joy. Instead, she chose to focus entirely on God's mercy and her need for it. And by doing that, she humbled herself into the state of a child who just simply relies on the strength of her dad and just relies on the amazing generosity of God. So today we're asking to be delivered from preference in both directions, to prefer ourselves to the weakness of other people, to be like, wow, look how good I am in comparison to this person. and to be delivered from the desire to be preferred in relation to perfection, to be like, I am worthy of goodness because I am perfect. So today, we ask God, from the desire to be preferred to others, deliver me, Jesus.